Hello and welcome to Game Theory. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, we are going to talk about some news and notes that have occurred over the last week in the NBA, some extensions, a couple of little random cleanup things on the Karl Towns trade. But the main crux of the episode today is going to be a 32 and over draft where we, between Bryce, Andrew, and I, select the best players 32 and over in the NBA and try to make the best team. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? Man, between you and Andrew, I've had more Major League Baseball talk over the last 48 hours than I have in, I don't know, the last 4 or 5 years. I was telling Andrew, I was a baseball fan. Like I watched it pretty close as a kid and even through high school, like really fell in love actually with the Red Sox. Whenever they made that comeback in the playoffs, 2004, I think it was, but I've just kind of fallen. You know, it can only focus really in on so many things, and I've kind of lost track of baseball. So,
yeah, baseball's one of the ones I've kept. The one that has kind of fallen for me is college football. Like, I would love to watch more college football. I just don't have the time anymore, unfortunately.
Sure.
Baseball, though, I feel like when the Pirates were competitive this summer, I feel like I watched baseball like every day, about like almost, right? And that kind of re-engaged me a little bit in, for instance, the wild card race that Claudio is going through right now as a Mets fan. So I am definitely intrigued to see how that all lands tomorrow. There's like a crazy situation where the Mets and Braves are probably going to have to play a doubleheader, on the day that we're, releasing this. So it's going to be pretty wild. This is a basketball show, though, Bryce. So we're going to talk about some basketball. We're going to talk about some news and notes that have occurred over the course of the last week. Let's start with the two extensions that occurred. The bigger one is the Terance Mann deal. Terance Mann was entering the final year of his deal. He has signed a 3-year, $47 million contract extension to stay with the Clippers. I am immensely interested in this contract. I can't emphasize enough because it does a few different things that I thought the Clippers might not want to do, while also getting Terance Mann on a deal that I think is like eminently reasonable and makes total sense from a financial perspective, as a guy that can be your perfect fifth starter, great defensively, can knock down shots from the perimeter, has really continued to just grow incrementally over the course of his career to this point. What were your thoughts when you saw this deal?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good deal. I think so. Are you talking about just locking in long-term money? Is that what you're talking about with? Okay. Yeah, I can understand that, but I guess this is my go-to on some of these deals is if it's a good deal, it can always be moved, right? So Terance Mann at $15 million, it's going to be MLE or less halfway through in the back half of that deal. Yeah. And I think Terance Mann is pretty good. I always go back through my notes when we start to talk about these guys, and it's just so much of the box score stats don't even tell the whole story with this guy. The way he plays off the ball, he's such a good off the ball mover with cuts, offensive rebound. The shooting, especially from the corner, was decent. In the playoffs, his last 11 playoff games, these last 2 years, he's actually shot well over 40%, closer to 45% on just under 4 attempts. So if he's going to be a quality shooter, and then all the other off-ball things he does, and then I think he can take real matchups on the defensive end. I think you said it. He's just kind of that right fifth starter. And so I don't ever think that's bad business. Even if you aren't wanting to lock in long-term money, you can trade him and get whatever draft capital and get that money off your books if they find themselves in that situation.
Yeah, so Mann over the last 3 years has played 26 minutes a game, averaged 9.5 points, shot 50% from the field, 37% from three, 79% from the line, averaged 4 rebounds, 2.2 assists. But really last year, it felt like, to me at least, was probably the strongest overall of those years. If you look at the numbers, I think they would say probably the 2022 year, where he averaged like 11 points and set a career high in assists and rebounds and everything like that. But I felt like last year they just had so many bodies there that were taking up usage, right? Like Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, James Harden, and he was asked to just step in and play this all defense role and just take the advantage of the opportunities that came to him. I thought he was excellent in doing just all of the little things that the Clippers put on his plate. Started 71 games and was just really, really valuable for them. So this deal like makes total sense to me. I think people might look at somebody who averages 9 points a game, making $15 million a year, and look at it a little bit sideways. I don't really look at it that sideways. You know, he's 27, about to turn 28 years old. I think that this is a contract that generally makes sense for the Clippers. It's just that when I look at what the Clippers are doing, right, my theory was that they were trying to create real flexibility to potentially re-enter the marketplace in free agency, to re-enter the trade marketplace in, you know, probably 2026, I would say was when it would be most likely. Now you have like $34 million between the Ivica Zubac and Terance Mann extensions. You have the Derek Jones deal that also adds to that. That's $44 million there too. I'm not saying that these are bad deals. I think that they make an immense amount of sense, if I'm being honest. But I just want to know a little bit more about what the Clippers' plan is, maybe, and what they're trying to accomplish in terms of building this team and in terms of trying to create a long-term sustainable, winning organization. Maybe their idea is we're just going to keep signing solid players at really, I would say this is a market rate deal. I wouldn't say that this is
it's not a steal.
It's not a steal for Terance Mann. This is a market rate deal. This is like what the Dorian Finney-Smith deal was, a few years ago, right? It's just interesting to me that they aren't considering trying to like open up even more flexibility, given that they're opening this brand new arena. They have all the money in the world with Steve Ballmer. They live in an incredible marketplace in Los Angeles to be able to convince stars to come play. I'm not I think this extension's fine. I just am curious about what it says about the Clippers' goals here as we have their cap sheet up on the YouTube channel.
Yeah. Also, I find it a little bit interesting because guys like his teammate, Derek Jones Jr., Najee Marshall, who replaced Derek Jones Jr., Isaac Okoro, those guys didn't get this deal. Those guys all for $4 or $5 million less. And you can rank those players however you want. I think we're in the same realm and archetype of player at the very least. And so it seemed like those guys didn't get prioritized as much as what I thought. Maybe I misjudged the market. So that was the one thing that I took away is like, man got more than all of those guys by $4 or $5 million per season. I think for all of them, and even a little bit more with Najee Marshall. I wonder if the Clippers are just going, hey, Zubac, really good player, role player, Derek Jones Jr., Terance, you're always going to need those guys. So let's go ahead and lock them in. And then we'll still have the big chunks of money or what we need to, if we need to realign the stars post James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, at least we still already have these role players in place and we don't have to go out and completely rebuild the roster. We can attract the star saying we already have these role guys in place on longer term deals. And I think you said it right, on market value deals. Zubac went from one of our top 10 contracts. So I don't know that it's like a grossly underpaid anymore. Maybe
it's a good deal.
Good deal. Man is on, like you said, fine. Derek Jones Jr., I think, is on a fine contract, maybe a little bit under. But again, I don't think it's ever bad to sign good contracts.
Yeah. And look, at the end of the day, I mentioned the summer of 2026, right? Like, to me, that's kind of what it seemed like the Clippers were building toward. They still can have max cap space in 2026, even with this deal, right? They have $44 million tied up in what is it? Zubac, Mann and Derek Jones, and then they have the $50 million from Kawhi Leonard. That's like $94 million against a cap that at that point is going to be $170 million, right? So it's not that they're in a place where they can't afford this thing, right? They can absolutely afford to extend Terance Mann and do whatever they want to do and be able to have that flexibility in the summer of 2026, like really the summer of 2026 is what I think they're gearing toward. I just, it's just one of the most interesting situations in the league, the Clippers, because they do have this massive marketplace. They have this new arena. I think that the Clippers might end up being a fairly exciting place to go, especially as the Lakers, continue to age out a little bit of this core and have to find a new answer to what their future is going to be beyond LeBron James, right? Yeah. If you want to go live in LA, the Clippers, in 2026 and 2027, there's a chance they are the better option for that momentary time period. I'm not saying, for the long-term Lakers fans, don't come at me, but both of these teams have a lot of questions to try and answer. And I will be intrigued to see how the Clippers go about positioning themselves to potentially get the better of that marketplace.
As I've gotten into this more and more since I joined you on the podcast, I find myself just fascinated with team building in general and the philosophies and how teams try to go about it. We've talked about it with these teams that have locked into 3 max guys like the Sixers, or, the Celtics are a little bit different because they won the title. What the Knicks have done all of a sudden, I know we did a whole episode on that. We don't need to rehash it again here, but where they had all this flexibility and then they cashed it in for the guys they cashed it in for, or somebody like the Clippers now who are signing quality deals with role players, but your star situation is a little uncertain. It's so fascinating to watch teams try to zig when other teams zag and then navigate the new CBA and watch and see how it all plays out.
Well, there's no right or wrong answer for building a roster. I think everybody on the internet acts like, oh my God, like you have to do this, you have to do that. Guys, there just really isn't like a right or wrong way. You want to try and take advantage of where the league is going and have the right marginal decisions that put you at a slight advantage to the other teams league wide with on-court product. But you can be in the middle for a while like the Raptors were and then try and make a star trade and explode and get Kawhi Leonard, right? You can try and tank for a minute like Oklahoma City did and position yourself that way. You can do what the Knicks are doing, which was, be sort of bad for a long time and then get Jalen Brunson playing free agency, a guy that was considered like a mid-tier free agent, and he explodes into a star and it changes your organization that way. You just make good decisions and you hope the right things come of it, right? And this next deal is interesting as well. So Jose Alvarado has signed a 2-year, $9 million extension with the New Orleans Pelicans. I saw some people say that like this was a crazy steal for the Pelicans. I agree that it's like a solid contract and it's a good contract for the Pelicans and it's one that will be valuable for them over the next 3 years. And if I was Jose Alvarado, I probably would have held out for more. But after I get your take on this, like I do think there are some real factors here that hold back Alvarado's market value, mainly being his height, right?
Yeah, and the fact that Markelle Fultz isn't on an NBA roster right now, and Dennis Smith Jr. isn't on an NBA roster right now. And I'm not saying Jose Alvarado isn't better than those guys. You won't find a bigger Jose Alvarado fan than me. And that's like some of my bias probably will show up in this conversation, but I understand playing the market. I do think this is a good deal for the Pelicans. I think Jose is worth more than that, but I also understand looking at the market, especially how it played out this last season, trying to figure out cap space and how teams are going to spend it and how free agency is going to look under this new CBA. I understand him wanting to lock in some money, and $9 million over 2 years isn't nothing. It's a short enough deal. He can get back into the market fairly quickly. I believe this is his age 26 season, so he can cash in again. So I understand it. It was lower than what I would have. It was lower than if you just said, hey, what would you pay Jose Alvarado? It's lower than that, Sam, I guess is the best way I would say it.
What's the number for you there?
I don't know that I'd go over 10. I think like if for me it'd be like 8, 6 to 8.
Yeah, to me it was like 6 to 7. That sounded right to me in terms of the number. Just kind of looking around the league, right? The point guard deals that got signed. Do you know how many point guards signed a deal this summer that was over the max number? Not including Tyrese Maxey and Emmanuel Quickley, who were restricted free agents, right? So point guards that signed in free agency, which is where in unrestricted free agency, which is where Alvarado, could have been headed.
Nobody's coming to mind. So no.
5 point guards signed for more than the minimum this summer.
Oh, you said max. So I was like,
oh, sorry. Signed for more than the minimum.
Oh,
there are 5 of them. Chris Dunn got like $5 million a year from the Clippers. Chris Paul got his like 1 year big number deal for $10 million. Aaron Holiday got 2 years, $9 million. And I think the second year is a team option. And Russell Westbrook got 2 years and like, slightly more than the minimum.
Yeah,
I believe like not much more. And then I thought there was one more. Was there one more? Might not be even, Bryce. I might have lied. But if you look at the names here that signed minimum contracts, Spencer Dinwiddie, Kyle Lowry, Tyus Jones, obviously, DeLon Wright, Monte Morris, Devontae Graham, Jordan McLaughlin, and then you really get into the questionable
campaign.
Campaign, whether or not like some of these other guys are NBA players. You look at the players that are available in free agency right now. You alluded to it. Markelle Fultz, Dennis Smith Jr., Kyra Lewis is available. Ty Washington, I believe, is available. Let's see here. I mean, Patrick Beverley signed in Israel, right? Some of these guys might also be signing in Europe, right? But I think that Dennis Smith Jr. has some pretty big money Europe offers, it seems like. So if you're Jose Alvarado and you're looking at the marketplace right now, and Tyus Jones just got a minimum contract, I might be looking at this and saying, shit, the marketplace is falling out on guards right now. Where does that leave me moving forward? How do I go about best positioning myself to get paid? And honestly, if I'm the Pelicans, I'm absolutely squeezing him right now and saying, hey, take this deal that we think is probably below market. I mean, you're not saying that to him necessarily, but you have to take this deal. Otherwise, you're entering free agency, which has been a wilderness for bigs or for small players, very small players and point guards over the last, year and a half, basically.
Well, and again, I'm a huge Jose Alvarado fan, but I would love to know, like I wish I had access to anybody in front offices, because I would love to poll all 30 front offices and just ask, how many of you would never consider Jose Alvarado on your team just based on his height? Like, and even not even just because, but like our defensive scheme does not allow us to play somebody that's 5'8", or we don't, our team building philosophy or our coach's philosophy is that we want players at this height at this position. And again, I love Jose, but would it be crazy to think that maybe you eliminate a third of the league just based off that alone?
You might. It's not, put it this way. You asked, is it crazy? It is not crazy to ask that question and to think that is a plausible outcome here. So yeah, that's where Alvarado sits right now. We'll see where he goes and if he made the right decision or not. I think he honestly he was in a really difficult spot there. The more I thought about it, if I was him, you have $9 million sitting in front of you. I really would have liked the idea of getting like a 3rd-year player option. Maybe I think he did get a 2nd-year player option.
He did
on this thing.
He did.
So he can re-enter the marketplace at 27 if he wants.
Yep.
I almost would have rather like, yeah, I don't know. It is kind of a bet on yourself deal then still, right? He's still getting that player option at the end of the day. He'll be able to extend off of, not next year, I believe the year after. Actually, no, because this is only a 2-year deal. He won't be able to extend this deal. So he'll be hitting free agency regardless, I believe. Yeah, it's an interesting deal now. He'll hit the marketplace at 27 or 28 and we'll see how the market treats him. But, locking in money, if you're Jose Alvarado and you never expected to play in the NBA necessarily, maybe he did, but very few people expected Jose Alvarado to play in the NBA. And you've carved out this career, and you could say that over the first 5 years, over the first, what would it be, 6 years of his career, he'll have made something like $16 million, like in that ballpark. I don't know. It's more than he'd make in Europe and more than he'd make in Australia. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, so he'll have made, he's made 3, roughly 5. He's going to make 2 this year. So he's going to be up at 16 if he just plays out, this for 6 years, which isn't bad.
Not bad. Okay. Next, Vince Williams is apparently injured. Bryce, explain to me what's going on with Vince Williams.
Yeah, I think it was a stress fracture. I'm obviously not a doctor. This isn't my expertise. Just kind of reading. It sounded like maybe he had some discomfort. So they went in and looked and they found a stress fracture.
They're calling it a stress reaction.
Reaction. I know. Yeah. I knew I wasn't supposed to say fracture because that's what, but it's the Grizzlies, man. Like you think this thing is over with. We talked about him a lot this offseason, right? Top 10 contract in the NBA. We talked about the Grizzlies being a top 10 defense, him being a significant part of that, maybe not the key cog, but a significant part of that. And this team being healthy, and then GG out at least for a little while to start the season. We'll see if Vince misses time or not. My immediate thought was, all right, Jake LaRavia, you're up and you're going to get your opportunity. But this sucks for Vince, who I think both of us were, excited to watch this year and expecting big things from him.
Yeah, I hope it's like a rest kind of thing more than anything, where they just feel like they need to get him some minutes and some time to be able to recover. And then he'll be back hopefully pretty early on, maybe by November or, mid-November, and be in really, really solid shape to play. The thing about Vince Williams is he plays a very punishing style of basketball, right? Like that dude plays so hard all the time that I just feel for him in his body, where he's just going to go balls to the wall all the time. And I can see where if you're not at 100%, it's probably pretty difficult to be able to play that style. And I hope he gets healthy and he's able to play that style, because man, he's a really fun basketball player to watch defend. He is such a fun basketball player to watch. The energy, the effort, the activity level is so strong. And second, man, the Gigi Jackson injury, the Vince Williams injury now, I just hope we're not headed for a redux of what was last season for Memphis. My goodness.
Yeah, it's just, I smile because I don't have any other reaction. Like, I don't know how else to react.
I know.
Whenever it just continues to happen to the same team, and you feel like they've been through it all. But, if there's a team to survive it, especially with the role players, it's the Grizzlies, right? We use the term consolidation trade all the time with this team.
Yeah.
Well, a byproduct of consolidation trade is you should be able to survive injuries, at least with your role players. Now, if we start getting into jaw injuries or Triple J injuries, that's different. You don't just replace those guys with another first, high level player like that. But in this situation, you have a former first round pick in Jake LaRavia. You have, Jalen Wells, if he's ready as a rookie. I'm not saying you have Conchar, you have Luke Kennard, you have options that you can put in there and see what those guys are capable of.
I noticed who you left out there. I saw that.
Scottie Pippen Jr. is more of a point guard. So is that who we're
unbelievable? Unbelievable. You sicken me. Shout out Cam Spencer.
No. Oh, Jay Huff is a center, Sam. Yeah, I think you're confused. Yeah. Jay Huff can't play.
By the way, I love all of these guys. Like the Derrick Rose retirement is another piece of this, and that's a whole other conversation that would open up a big can of worms that we don't want to dive into right now. But it opens up a situation where they have an extra roster spot. I've kind of just been assuming they're going to convert Scottie Pippen into that roster spot because I don't know about you. I think he was maybe the best player we saw at Summer League this year, right?
Well, let's just ask you. Those 3 two-way guys are awesome. Like those have to be our favorite.
It's the best two-way guys in the league.
Okay, I was gonna say because Jay Huff was really good. I mean, I didn't go to Summer League to watch Jay Huff. So when somebody catches my eye, when I'm there to really watch rookies and sophomores that I've scouted, and then somebody else catches my eye, like okay, and I take notice. That's a really good group of two-way guys.
I think I've been talking about Jay Huff being an NBA player now for like 2 years. So I think he's like an NBA quality backup big. I think that the ability to shoot it, the ability to protect the rim, he doesn't really do anything else, but like those two things, he's honestly a little bit more athletic now. It feels like to where he can rim run a little bit, but by and large, like those are two skills that I really value. And having somebody, as a backup big that can do that, even as a third big that can do that is, I think he should have been on an NBA roster here for a minute, but whatever, he's not. To me, it's Scottie Pippen is the guy that's up. If you're going to convert somebody, it should be Pippen. And I say this as the world's foremost Cam Spencer fan. Scottie Pippen earned it in Summer League, and they have a significant need at point guard. It should probably be Pippen. We'll see what happens, though. They have to fill this roster spot at some point. Maybe they bring in like a Markelle Fultz or a Dennis Smith as well. Like that's not totally impossible, I guess, but we shall see. Okay. Final note here. Obviously, we want to clean up on some of the Towns stuff, right? And the next obvious kind of thing to me is we never really totally talked about the Mitchell Robinson injury. Mitchell Robinson, it seems like, is going to be out until December at best, seems more like January based off of the way the team is kind of leaving that open as an option, right? That it might be January. Chris Persinen for, shout out to Knicks Film School. And, he's on the internet. He's in these internet streets. He mentioned that, sources have told him that they are receiving calls, the Knicks are, on Mitchell Robinson, and they're taking calls on him too, right? So there could be like a bit more of an openness there to move him potentially than what we initially thought or met the eye, like where things met the eye, right? What do you think Mitchell Robinson's trade value is? Because that's where I'm struggling with this. I actually don't think it's particularly high. And go ahead.
It's a decent contract. It's a good contract. It's descending. It is short, but it's the injuries, right? Correct. And so
like I've seen people bring up the Pelicans, right?
Sure.
If you're the Pelicans, I don't know how you do this with Mitch, unless you're giving up like something like super cheap for him, right? Which I don't know if the Knicks will have interest in. Just like, if you're the Knicks, why would you give him up for draft picks, right? Like, unless you're moving him in like a 3-team deal, you're really just trying to move him for players that can help you now, because Mitch is going to be able to help you come January, right? So like, I've seen people bring up like Trey Murphy for Mitchell Robinson. I'm like, you guys are out of your mind if you think the Pelicans are trading Trey Murphy for Mitchell Robinson while he's hurt and we don't know when he's coming back, right?
Yeah.
There's just like zero chance of that happening to me. Look, like that Pelicans front office has done some strange things, right? We've had some questions about them. That would make no sense. It would make 0 sense for them, given what the Knicks' other assets are, right? Like they don't have other things that they can throw on to Mitchell Robinson to make it work for Trey Murphy, right? Now, if you told me that they really liked Jordan Hawkins or something like that, and they wanted to do like Jordan Hawkins and a first round pick or something because they wanted to replace the shooting from the backcourt that Dante DiVincenzo, is vacating in some way, like, okay, I would hear that out. That would make more sense. But like Trey Murphy, like no chance to that. Like agreed. I can't see that at all. But New Orleans is like a team that could have interest in Mitch, where it's just like, can you really trust where his body is at the end of the day? And if you're in New Orleans, like you have to get this center trade right. Like you can't really screw around and end up in a circumstance where we're waiting on Mitchell Robinson in January. Oh crap. He had a setback. We're still here. We're waiting until February now, right? Like they need a big that can help them this season. I just like don't know if I can trust him to be there given where he is right now, health wise.
Why are the Knicks trying to trade Mitch Rob? Can I understand that? I don't understand that. Because now he's essentially your backup 5. I think he's still on a good contract as your backup 5. And as your backup 5, the injury history isn't as big of a concern. And if you want to play big, you now have the guy in Cats to play next to him. Like, I don't understand why we want to trade Mitch Robinson from the Knicks now.
So I think that it could just simply be the injuries where like, they feel like they somebody that's going to be able to. Yeah, like they might not be able to be in a spot where, and look, like maybe it really is that they're just like receiving inquiries on this because they just traded for a center and teams see that Mitchell Robinson maybe is available, right? They're not the ones initiating, they're just receiving. That's certainly the way the report from Chris Persinnen is phrased, which makes sense that they would be receiving calls, right? I agree with you that I think it would make sense for the Knicks to keep Mitch and have lineup flexibility in some way, shape, or form against teams that will try to go bigger in the playoffs. But I can also see a world where if they thought Mitch had real trade value, they could go and use his contract to go and acquire more depth, right? Go and acquire more trade assets to get more depth, right? That's where, like, if the Pelicans were willing to do Jordan Hawkins and a pick or something like that, that's kind of interesting to me on some level. I think if I was the Knicks, I'd probably still rather have Mitch in the lineup flexibility that he brings, just because Jordan Hawkins is a little bit too small for me, for what they already have on their roster. But like, that's the deal that, value wise seems okay.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about a lot of guys I really like, and people will know if they followed at all. Jordan Hawkins was my guy in that draft. So I obviously think he's a really good player, and in the role, like, he would be interesting as a Dante replacement in that role, because if there's one thing Jordan Hawkins can do, it's run around and shoot a lot of threes. There's no question about that. So that would be interesting. I'm also trying to look and see how New Orleans would make the money work without just putting a whole bunch of players together. But the Trey Murphy.
It'd be hard.
Happening. Trey Murphy is not happening.
Yeah, like the money would be hard on a deal like that too, because like Mitch is at what, like 12 or so,
14, right? And then it descends, I believe. I think it's 14 this year, and it's 14.3 this year, and then descends to 12.9.
Yeah, so like Jordan's at 4.5. I'm sure they would want to back up big back. So like maybe you do Daniel Tice, but like Tice can't be moved for, a few months because he just signed in the offseason.
Yep, December 15th.
Yeah, it's I don't really.
They don't have any of those middle of the road contracts. I mean, again, we're taking Murphy off the plate. You're not going to trade Herb Jones at $13 million. And then it's like Messi at 3. JRE at 2, like everybody else at
so
less than 2?
Here's an interesting name. So like we've talked a lot about Chicago's backcourt, right?
Sure.
Chicago has all these bodies in the backcourt. Zach LaVine, Kobe White, Josh Giddey, whatever, it seems like Lonzo Ball is going to play this year, whatever they get from Lonzo Ball. Is there something around Ayo Dosunmu and Mitchell Robinson? That's actually kind of a fun construction to me.
And then you add in,
because I mean, God knows Chicago like needs a defensive center in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. So it'd be like Dosunmu and Javon Carter gets you to 13-5.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say like Dosunmu and Duarte
gets you to 13. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I assume that people are going to scream at us, but I think you and I are bigger fans of Dosunmu than most are. Based on how he played, especially towards the end of last year. I thought he was really
I think
good.
Dosunmu is quite good.
Yeah.
Like I think, honestly, I think Dosunmu has more value probably league wide than what Mitchell does just because of the injuries. Like in terms of when Mitch is on the court, he's like a league average starting center and he's on a cheap deal and he is a fantastic player. And I think that, we probably haven't said that enough in this conversation, right?
Yeah.
Like Mitch could really, really play.
Yeah. No, but he's very good.
The issue is the injury track record at this point is not particularly strong. It continues to not be strong, and he is hurt right now. Yep. So I am just skeptical that they would get like the kind of value that people think on the market for him if they were to move him. Yeah,
and Dosunmu is on a really good contract. I think we at least briefly mentioned him whenever we did that episode. 7 this year, 7.5 in 25-26. So.
Yeah. No, look, I like Ayo quite a bit.
Yeah.
But we'll see what they decide to do. I think that my guess is that they probably go into the season with Mitchell Robinson and see where his body gets to, at least. Yeah. Hopefully he recovers. Hopefully he gets healthy and things get rolling. All right, Bryce, are you ready to draft?
Let's do it. I'm excited for this one.
I'm excited for this one too, because it is a 32 and over draft. Basically, any NBA player that is 32 and over is eligible, and we are trying to create the best team to compete over the course of, we are playing a season of basketball this year.
Yep.
And trying to win over the course of a full season, trying to create the best roster for us.
Correct.
And we will obviously put this out to a vote, and we will make sure that you guys get to tell us who did well and who did poorly.
So just to clarify, that it's the same as the 24 and under. So December 31st is the cutoff. December 31st, 1992 is the cutoff. So just some names immediately that were born in 1993. Anthony Davis in March, Bradley Beal in June, Norman Powell, Spencer Dinwiddie, KCP, Dorian Finney-Smith. Larry Nance Jr. was born on January 1st, 1993. He missed it by a day. And then Buddy Hield is available. If you look, he is 31 right now, but his birthday is December 17th, 1992. So he will turn 32 before the end of the calendar year.
Okay. So it's calendar year of 2024. You have to turn 32 in the calendar year of 2024.
Yep.
We have a third person who's going to come and join us for this draft. It is not Andrew Schlecht, but it is Andrew Claudio. Instead, what's going on, Claudio?
What's up, fellas? I'm happy to be your representative, Andrew, for this draft.
GMAC is here, taking a break from his producerial, we'll go with, duties.
I think that's a word.
That's a nice word.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a word, guys.
We'll go with it.
Doesn't matter.
It is if you believe it is.
It is if you believe it is. Thank you, Andrew. That is such a good way to put it. Okay, so we did not decide on an order ahead of time. Does anybody want to go first, or are we going to flip for this?
I've got a system that we use for drafts at Knicks Film School. If you'd like to partake in that system,
let's do it.
Little game of high card draw. So these are the cards that I got at the Vegas airport at Summer League, and so we use them for every draft now. I will start with our host, Sam. Your card is a 7 of spades. Bryce, your card is a 3 of clubs. And then my card is a 6 of spades. So, Sam, you get to go first. I'll go second. And then, Bryce, you get to go third.
Well, wait. Do I get to pick my draft slot?
You know what? Great.
No. He goes first.
I will let you guys decide whether or not you guys want to go that way or not. We're
not going to argue about this. That's fine.
Okay.
I want to see who you pick. This is interesting to me.
It is actually quite interesting.
It is. It's not the under 24 draft for sure.
Because there are 3 very obvious, maybe 4 really.
I have
picks.
4. I have 4 in the tier.
Yeah, and you could even make a case for 5.
I would agree.
I actually think going number 1 is a bit of a disservice in this draft.
I also agree.
I would have preferred to go number 3.
I think that's a good fair point.
Okay.
So we screwed Sam in both drafts because in the under 24, he went third whenever there was 2 obvious top 2 picks. And in this one where there's 4 or 5 in the top tier, he goes first and 6th.
I love how you did that, Bryce, where you made it.
I didn't do it.
You made it very clear how the draft order was going to be decided. Wasn't you get to decide what pick you are.
Also,
you are where your card says you are.
We're going to snake draft. And I love Brian Windhurst, but I don't know if you guys listen to that. He really struggles with the snake draft. I tried to tweet at him and help him out, but they didn't respond. So I don't think they found it funny.
So this draft is fun because, again, we're doing this for like a full season, right?
This season, yes. Just one season this season.
And in some respect, I need to think about like injuries, right?
Yeah.
I need to think about like, okay, who are the guys where I can really trust them to stay healthy?
Sure.
And I think that's what's going to lead me to take LeBron James here.
Wow. Okay.
As much as I love 2 of the other guys on this list, as much as I love, people know that I Kevin Durant's on this. I'm not breaking news here, right? Kevin Durant is on this thing. Yep. I love Durant, one of my favorite players, really, of all time. Kevin has missed time over the course of the last, 2 or 3 years, not even 2 or 3 years, really. I would say the last, decade, almost 27 games in 2015, 62 games in 2017, 35 games in 2021, 55 in 2022, 47 in 2023, and then 75 last year. He played a full year last year for the first time in a while. I think that I trust LeBron to get through like the full season, just like a little bit more than I trust. Really, it's there are 3 other names that you can come up with here, but I trust him to get through the season a little bit more than I trust the other guys here.
It's fair. Yeah, I mean, he's obvious. He was in my top 3 and definitely in the top tier.
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll ever get to a point where drafting LeBron James first overall is like a bad
choice.
Okay, so here's my question. So Andrew, who would would you have taken LeBron 1? Is my question to you?
Yes.
Okay, I would not have, just for the sake, because one of my favorite all-time players is available, and I just was going to take the opportunity to draft him. So
I think Claudio's next, right?
Yeah, right. Claudio's next.
And I apologize that I don't think you're going to get said players because my pick will be Steph Curry.
There you go. That is said player.
Yeah. I will say I did think about
why Steph Curry over Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard.
The health aspect that you talked about. I also just think Steph Curry is better than both of them, even at 36 years old. The shooting that he provides is the most obvious weapon that can be talked about even in 2024, that it also allows me to get creative with the rest of my roster since we're trying to build out the best possible team, and he'd be good next to anybody. Now there's also a bit of like, I got to know my roots here, and I may or may not have said a lot of bad things about Kevin Durant when he was in Brooklyn, and that may have extended into today. But I also share Bryce's sentiments that I've enjoyed watching Steph Curry, and I'm happy that he's on my team right now.
Okay. I love it. Bryce, you're up.
And we just saw him go crazy in the Olympics. So obviously he still has that magic left in him. I will take the two players that you mentioned, Sam. Those were definitely, this was my top 4. And so I will take Kevin Durant third to round out the first round. And then as we start to snake back, I will take Kawhi Leonard. I understand the injury issues with both players. I get it. I'm still going to take both of them. We are talking a 32 and older draft. I think injury concerns and health are going to be conversations with majority of players we take. Of these 30 names, it will be interesting how many we don't mention that. But I feel pretty good about starting my team with two-way wings in Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard. So Andrew, you brought up kind of the versatility. I think that's true with Steph and his offensive gravity, but starting off with these two wings allows me to go a bunch of different ways moving forward.
That is also why I started with a wing with LeBron James over Steph. I really thought about Steph as well, but I thought there was a little bit more guard depth than there was.
That's 100%. There's 100% truth to that, Sam.
Yeah, so that was an important factor for me as well here. As much as I love Steph, I kind of just thought that there was a bigger drop off between the wings than there were the guards.
Yep, I think that's fair.
May I ask a clarifying question?
You can.
The positional designations, how strict are we being?
So
adjust as you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like whenever we did the under 24, like I didn't even start Scotty Barnes and he was my 5th pick. So like
totally.
Yeah. Sam will adjust as we make picks. He just starts off with this.
Right. I more meant like as far as if I want to take a guy and put him at center, but he may technically be a 5 as long as it makes sense. Yeah. Or he may technically be like a wing or a 4. Like,
it doesn't have to make sense even.
So you're okay if I want you to move Steph to center, you're okay with that?
You can. You're just not going to get any votes.
Yeah, that's it.
I would argue if I just put like a bunch of shooters out there, the entire analytics crowd that's like shooting's the only thing that matters would point to that.
Hopefully you draft somebody bigger than Steph Curry.
Yes, don't worry. I plan to. My next pick with that in mind will be there's so many people that I admire, but there's also so many villains of New York basketball that I could not draft. So I'm gonna get creative with this, and I don't think this is that bad a pick. But I will take Drew Holiday with my next pick.
I like it. I love it.
I got Steph and Drew in the backcourt.
Okay. Yeah. So I was wondering if Drew had any chance to slide back to me on the next one.
Yep.
But yeah, that didn't occur here. Okay. So why Drew over because there are still quite a few wings available. Why Drew over some of the wings?
So this is where I'm talking about the positional designations, where I actually think you could play him against a lot of wings. Like they had him guarding centers a lot last year. RIP to the old version of the Knicks, but every time that the fully healthy version of the Knicks, specifically opening night, would play the Celtics, Mazzulla had Drew guarding Julius Randle, and it put his brain in jail that he just couldn't comprehend. Like, this guy's smaller than me. I should be able to back him down, but I've been completely shut down as a result. So the ability for him to guard 1 through 5, having him in the backcourt with Steph as a counterpart. So he isn't necessarily my primary ball handler, but can be a ball handler. It appears he's still able to shoot as well in the year of our Lord 2024, excuse me. So Drew Holiday.
Like it.
Okay, you have left me in an interesting spot by taking Drew. You have created a pickle here, Andrew.
I'm sorry.
And I respect it. I respect it immensely, actually. I'm basically trying to decide on what I think. I'm trying to shout out game theory, trying to play game theory on what I think Bryce is going to do. There are a couple guys that I could take here that make a lot of sense. I am going to definitely take. You know what? I'm just doing this. I'm going to take Paul George and Jimmy Butler.
Ooh, okay.
And I'm going to
That's nice.
just have like a super switchable, wing conscious team that is super tough, is super, long. I have a monster defensive wing trio now that I think will give me a lot of versatility and lineup flexibility. And I'm also debating whether or not I play LeBron at point guard, depending on what happens here.
Sure.
So that I'm going to go Jimmy Butler and Paul George. Where did you guys have Jimmy Butler and Paul George?
They were my next two players.
They're right around where Drew is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought about Paul George over Drew. I think I like Drew a little bit better. Not from an offensive standpoint where you're running the offense through him, but the way I want to construct my team, I would. And it is against my religion to draft Jimmy Butler. So you benefited from that.
Yeah. I feel like this is not going the way that I had hoped almost, but it kind of is because like I have LeBron, Paul George, and Jimmy Butler, which is, all fantastic players. I kind of had a vision for how I wanted to build my team out beforehand. And it's not really the same way that I had it in my head, maybe, but I like where this is going from already I have like a number of different ways that I can construct bench units. I can construct starting lineups, kind of everything like that. And another piece of it for me is that I actually wonder what Andrew does at the wing position now.
Yeah. I needed one of those guys and I wanted one of them specifically. And I was going to build a pretty fun switchable defensive unit. And by taking both of them, you've thrown that plan for a loop. I'm going to have to adjust on the fly. So.
Okay. Awesome. Andrew, you are up at number 8.
So I'm pretty confident that, I actually don't know what Bryce is going to do. I don't know how much you're willing to completely jam me up with your picks if I decide to ignore a certain position. But
you should know because I talked about it on the last time.
Right. But I also now I'm involved, so I don't know.
And then I jam myself up with said position.
Right. Now I'll take DeMar DeRozan with my next pick and put him at the wing. Yep. Yeah, I think the what I'm building right now is I was trying to see if I could stay as 5 out as possible. Obviously, with DeRozan, I'm welcoming back the mid range, but now I have 2 shooters. One is the greatest ever, and one is a 43% 3-point shooter last year around DeMar. So there's going to be at least space to operate. I'll go DeMar DeRozan with my next pick.
Okay.
I like it. For what it's worth, he was one of my next best players available also.
There's a best player available argument, then there's also a need that
we're about to get into the awkward fit stuff like we got into the under 24 where there's going to be some really good names and it's like, man, I kind of already have that role taken. Do I draft this guy yet? And then we're going to get a steal like Sam did with LaMelo Ball whenever we did the under 24.
Yeah, no, it's very possible. Bryce, you are up at number 9.
I'm going to take Kyrie Irving for my first player in the backcourt. And then I'm going to zig away from what I initially wanted to do defensively based on the Kyrie pick. And I'm going to take Rudy Gobert to anchor my defense.
There you go.
Okay.
Just complete transparency. I was hoping to go Paul George and Draymond here or Jimmy Butler and Draymond and just go completely switchable with those 4 guys, those 2 plus Kawhi and KD. Once you took both, Sam, I didn't like the other wing options. I didn't think any of those guys were talented enough to go there. I think Kyrie's the most talented player, especially filling a role. We saw him do it with Luka. So I think he can play the 3rd star on my team. But now with Kyrie, I can't just switch everything. So I need Gobert to defend.
it's an interesting. It is interesting. If you're going to take Kyrie in this draft, I do love the idea of taking Rudy.
Yeah.
I think that makes a ton of sense. And I think that I'm really interested to see what your next two picks are.
Yeah.
Because I think that those two picks are kind of the ones that will kind of tell the tale of if this makes sense, how to make sense of it. Because I think I know who you will take next. I think I know, but I'm not positive.
Yeah.
Andrew, you're up at number 10.
So this is where I have to get
number 11.
Yeah. This is where I have to get a little wonky with my positions because I think I think I have to go a little small with my picks here.
So DeRozan's going to play center.
You joke, but I mean, if I roll out a Drew Holiday at center lineup just to mess with teams, I'm gonna take Dame Lillard with my next pick.
So for what it's worth, this was a big part of my calculus at the turn with Paul George and Jimmy Butler. I was assuming that you would not take Dame, and I was assuming Bryce would only take one of these, Dame or Kyrie's, and I would end up with one of Kyrie or Dame. So for you to do this throws me for a loop, and I am now really interested to try and figure this out at the turn. So what is your vision here for your backcourt?
As I just mentioned, Drew Holiday was guarding centers at times. It's just I now have a new version of the Splash Brothers with Steph and Dame and in the backcourt. Honestly, the hesitation wasn't even necessarily like the positional stuff. It's, do I think Dame still has like that in him, that portion of his prime that he was like hitting 50 footers and had that high volume success. And I think with a lot of space around, especially on lineups where he shares the court with Steph Curry, I think this will be a team that just bombs away with threes. So, and not the greatest defender either. I have Drew Holiday on the court that can share with him. So I'm leaning into the Drew Holiday identity of my team right now. And obviously the DeRozan of it makes things interesting. But this is why I started by talking about Steph Curry and his ability to be great off ball. Because if Dame and DeRozan are my primary ball handlers, Steph's gravity helps me, make more room for them. So I'm going Dame here, and I'm looking forward to the 3 guard lineups that I put out there.
Okay. So now,
it's really fun until right about now. Like this was a lot of fun until now, because now it gets really interesting. Those picks were pretty easy. Like those are all my top players. There's still some good ones, but.
So.
I'm sorry.
What I would really love here is if there was like a real 4-man that could space and like defend and be switchable to super high level. Right.
Some of these guys can do one of those things.
Yeah, right. No, like a lot of them can do one of these things, but not many can do both, I would argue. The guy that's really closest to this, in my opinion, is the guy I'm going to take.
Oh,
I'm definitely taking Al Horford here.
Okay. Interesting.
Because I want a real like spacing center for sure.
Yeah.
And I want the kind of lineup flexibility. Like I could play Al at the 4 or the 5, right?
Yeah.
And he can knock down corner threes and wing threes. He can pass it. He can play make. It feels like the right player to like mix into this group. The next question for me, I think I know if I don't take one guy that Bryce will take him. Andrew is a bit of a wild card here now.
Yeah, no shit.
Andrew is a bit of a wild card. Not going to lie.
I was like, we're going to screw him over. He's not going to have a center. And you know what Andrew said? I don't need it. He's just like the Knicks. I don't need a center.
I don't need a center. Yeah, or I'll randomly trade for a center on 2 days before media day. Okay.
Right.
Oh.
Okay. I am going to take Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
Oh
No! You are.
Well, you said he's not eligible. That's right.
He's not eligible.
I'm
February
sorry,
18th, KCP, his birthday. Let me double check. Caldwell-Pope, real GM. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope does not turn 32 until February 18th.
Until February. Ugh.
So that list I sent you had a few extra names.
So it did, Bryce.
Sorry.
It did.
I hadn't adjusted the ones that were still 31 on NBA.com. I had to go through and hash out a few of those. I apologize. So the names that may be on there, Sam, that shouldn't be AD, Bill, Norman Powell, Spencer Dinwiddie, KCP, Dorian Finney-Smith, Larry Nance Jr., Pat Connaughton. If any of those names are on what I had sent you, I hadn't got them off yet.
Yeah. Okay.
My bad. That's my fault. That's on me.
Wouldn't change my first pick here at all. Like I'm very comfortable with Al Horford. I am just going to take James Harden here.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And at the very least, I have my sixth man in Harden.
Sure.
I think there's a chance Harden doesn't start for me, but I think there's also a chance he does, right? Like Harden might be a great fit with Jimmy Butler, Paul George, LeBron, and Al Horford. All sorts of driving lanes, all sorts of passing angles to create here. Again, it's not what I envisioned.
That's not what I envisioned. Whenever we get into these.
But here we are, and I'm rolling with the punches of what I wanted. Okay. Andrew, you're up at 14.
You're acting like Commissioner Gordon in the middle of the Dark Knight, where it's unpredictable what the Joker's about to do, and I'm over here like, do I look like a guy with a plan? You know,
some people just like to watch the world burn.
Yeah,
and that is Andrew.
Claudio is
thing.
Yeah,
yes,
just out here watching. We're watching the world burn as Claudio makes his picks.
Yeah,
such a great movie, by the way. God,
it is. Such a good movie.
I watched it probably 2 weeks ago. It's so good. I watched all three of them 2 weeks ago. They're so good.
I'm due for a rewatch. Yeah,
you should. Highly recommend.
So I gotta stick with the spacing the floor. I need a spacing big. I'll take Brook Lopez with my next pick. I also think I need some rim protection.
That's not staying in character. What are you doing? That's not fun.
What, taking a center here? I needed to space the floor.
You were supposed to take I don't know, Chris Middleton, and then I could take another center. And
if it wasn't for the fact that the other two centers, I wanted Al Horford, but I knew I couldn't justify taking Horford over Dame, and I knew what taking Dame would do to Sam. So I at least am okay now going to this lineup with Horford as a decent pick and roll partner. I'm going to be playing a ton of drop coverage, but where I may go with the rest of my draft also allows me to get creative. We'll see what Bryce does with the guy who I want next. But
look, you're playing drop. You're playing drop anyway,
right?
So
right.
It doesn't matter.
I might switch a bit. I might switch a bit. The tough part is with Dame switching, but let's see how I fill out the rest of my roster. I might switch a bit. Again, I'm looking forward to those Drew Holiday at the center lineups that I'm going to throw out there.
This rocks. Bryce, you're up at 15.
So I got to add a little bit of floor spacing considering I have Rudy Gobert. So I'll take one of the greatest shooters in the history of the NBA and I'll draft Klay Thompson and putting him in my starting lineup. I realize that defensively that he isn't what he used to be. Chris Middleton's still on the board here, but I think Chris Middleton's like the real injury concern. Kawhi obviously is as well, but with what the reports with, what was it, double ankle surgery or whatever, I'm just going to go Klay.
Yeah, look, Clay was the other name that I thought about with Harden after KCP was taken. KCP I wanted because of the switchability. I was just like, okay, I can like literally just switch everything if I take KCP here. Clay can't really do that anymore, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But obviously an incredible shooter. And if there is one thing with my lineup, I'm like a touch worried about, it would be shooting. How do I keep ending up in this circumstance, by the way, where all I talk about is like 5-out floor spacing and shooting. And meanwhile, I did end up with the 5-out, but like here I am again, like where I'm like shooting is kind of my question mark. Bryce, you're up at 16.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Draymond here.
Dang it.
And
that's who I knew you were gonna take.
You got me.
Yeah.
And I thought about him substantially.
Yeah. So I mean, I have thoughts of maybe being able to go a different way with like my backup big. There's some names. One in particular that's not very good defensively, but could at least do that. But I'll just play into, that my 5-man, my big isn't going to be able to shoot in floor space, but I'm pretty comfortable having Draymond Green come off the bench for me. And then the versatility that allows lineups.
It's a good pick, I think. Honestly, like he would have not gotten past me again. I know that.
He was going to be my next pick if Bryce hadn't. I was trying to pair Steph and Dray. Honestly, I thought about taking him over Brook. And then I decided to go with the better shooter. But
it's a good question. Bryce, would you have taken Brook with this?
Yes.
In these two picks?
Yes. Yeah. So Clay was the guy I felt like I needed to fill out my starting lineup. And then I was going to probably take a big regardless, because I think there's a lot of guards to fill out my bench unit that I feel similar about, even the wings to fill out my bench unit. But I had those bigs in a tier of their own. And so I wanted to get one of those guys. So I probably would have taken Brook here, and then I would have had a floor spacing big. So yes, those guys wouldn't have made it past me.
Okay, Andrew, you're up at 17.
Yeah, I know. This is where I have to take Middleton and just go with the add a wing here. I mean, the upside is he's healthy, and I can put him in traditional lineups. The downside is he's not, and at least he's a sixth man, and I have my starting rotation in play. So I'll go with Middleton here.
Yeah, so you have a lot of playmakers on your team. You have a lot of playmakers. And that is valuable because you have taken away a lot of the playmakers from Bryce and I.
This is, again, I'll just echo it again. The Steph Curry of it all allows me to put playmakers on the floor with him. And same thing, honestly, with Drew as well, where they can be around my playmakers.
You went full chaos agent. I love it.
Yeah. Regretting not taking Draymond. I got to be honest. I'm regretting not taking Draymond.
So, okay. Now we're getting into like really tricky areas. I think. To be clear, Bryce, Beal is not eligible, right?
Bradley Beal will turn 32 on June 28th, 1993.
Yeah. So ineligible here.
Ineligible. No Norman Powell, no Spencer Dinwiddie, no Dorian Finney-Smith. Let me double check Dorian Finney-Smith because I actually had him on my list and that may have been a mistake. So let me double check that one. Dorian Finney-Smith, yes, will not turn 32 till May 4th. So no Dorian Finney-Smith either.
Okay. So LeBron teams are all often very specific in their construction, and they do like to have smaller scoring guards around who can handle the ball and play make and do things like that. So I am going to go CJ McCollum here.
Yep. He was probably my top player available.
Yeah. And he makes sense for what I have now, either off the bench as the sixth man or as frankly, like I could start him with my group and put LeBron at point. Yeah. And bring James off the bench. I think that there are different avenues that I could look at in that respect. At number 19 here, there are very few two-way wings available.
That's a very fair statement.
Unfortunately, Dorian Finney-Smith is not one of them.
Correct.
Which is a killer.
Yeah, he was definitely going this round if he was eligible.
Yeah, I probably would have taken him here, honestly.
Sam, before you pick, should we give the audio listeners a rundown?
Yes.
We enter round 7. Yeah. So my team, not in the order they were selected, but is Kyrie, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Rudy Gobert, with Draymond Green being the 6th man. Sam's team is some version of James Harden or CJ McCollum, one starting, one off the bench, with Jimmy Butler, Paul George, LeBron James, and Al Horford. Andrew's team is Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, Drew Holiday, DeMar DeRozan, and Brooke Lopez, with Chris Middleton off the bench. So we are 6 rounds in. We all have 5 starters, a 6th man. We are starting round 7.
Okay. Thank you for that update, Bryce.
Sorry, Andrew. I assume Drew Holiday is probably your power forward. I'm not sure.
At this point, it kind of has to be.
Yeah.
I mean,
over DeRozan.
Again, we'll see what I do. I might put him at the center at a certain point. Just wait for the next 3 picks when they're all guards.
Chris Paul, Mike Conley, and Reggie Jackson.
Stop. We're not allowed to say who's on the board, Bryce. We're not allowed to say that. That's cheating.
Okay. So this one might be like a little off the. I'm going to go Jonas Valanciunas here.
No,
because I think I need a bit more size. Just a little bit more, not a lot more. I worry that without Jonas, or there's like precious few bigs left. Like Jonas is one of like 2 bigs left that are even potentially playable, in my opinion, in games like this. And Jonas, I am skeptical he will even be playable in something like this. But I think I need like an ass kicker, kind of. I think that's probably what my team would be missing. If anything, is just like kind of a guy who can be a bully and can be physical and can be strong at the big positions. You guys have Rudy and Brooke. Those guys can certainly do that. I would like a bit more physicality and rebounding on the interior. So I'm going Jonas Valanciunas.
He would definitely be one of my top 5 players available, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good pick.
Same. I have him on my big board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Andrew, you're up at number 20.
Am I now?
I think that number 18, for what it's worth, is really where the drop off is.
Yes. But I have a guy I really don't want Andrew to take.
Well, the guy I'm staring at would clash with my identity, but I may just do it anyway. I will take with my next pick. Yeah, I'll take Chris Paul. Let's just do it.
I fucking love it so much.
I'll take Chris Paul.
I love
We're
it.
going small. I have all the point guards on my team. And now even the point guard is on my team. He's off the bench.
Amazing.
Look, there are worlds where I can put him next to Steph. I could put him next to Dame. I could put him next to Drew. I don't know who I couldn't put him next to. Defensively, I still think he has something in him. Sneaky underrated part of the Warriors season last year was his ability to control that second unit, especially from a lineup data and plus minus standpoint. That injury really messed up his season, but I need 20 good minutes out of the point guard to defend and run the second unit. So
I love it so much.
While I also have Dame Lillard and Steph Curry. Yes.
Hey, you know what?
Many playmakers.
I always give teams credit for having an identity. And
this is an identity.
your team more than anybody's has an identity.
Yes,
and
it does.
I respect it.
I have a question. Are retired players in play? Like if you like if I want to go up, like
can you draft Michael Jordan? Is that what you're asking? Like,
is he in play? Is all I'm asking.
Anything's in play. Again, you were to the judgment of who's the most rabid fan base in Twitterverse that just vote for your team because you have that person?
Just wait until Carmelo Anthony somehow ends up on my basketball team.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
Bryce, you were up at 21.
I will take Bogdanovich here. And then I will take, because he's a Detroit Piston, I will take Tobias Harris with my next pick. So I will take Bogdan, not Boyan, Bogdanovich, and Tobias Harris to start to fill in my second unit wing room.
Can I tell a Tobias Harris story?
Yes, please tell a Tobias Harris story.
When I was 20 years old and still living on Long Island, I was working with a youth group, a church here on Long Island. And one of the kids that lived in Nassau County was on his basketball team. And because I was the older one, I always felt like I was the king of the court. Like, yeah, sure, kids, let's go play. And this kid goes, hey, someone from my varsity team wants to come down. Is it cool if I bring him? I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like, all right, well, he's kind of good and kind of tall, so it might not be fair. And I was like, sure, tall. And I'm, again, arrogant 20-year-old talking to this teenager. In walks Tobias Harris. And I can confidently say that at 20 years old is the day I realized that I will never play in the NBA. When one Tobias Harris became the real king of the court and was like, oh yeah, I'm being scouted by all these different schools, Tennessee, whatnot. And there you have it. I've shared a court with Tobias Harris, and it was very clear why I should never share a court with Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris, good at basketball. I can only imagine him just like pulling up and just absolutely wrecking all of you guys.
Yes, there was a lot of like just don't get hurt in his game, but there was also a lot of I'm better than you youth leader that thinks that he's the second best player on the court in his game.
Oh my God.
Threw down a few times too, which got all the kids excited, which was cool.
I'm sure he did. Oh my God. He could jump when he was younger for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Andrew, you're up at 23.
Oh yeah, I am, aren't I? Let's see. Let me look at my guards. Hold on. I might need another.
You might need another one?
Yeah, maybe. Again, you gotta lean in. I will take with my next pick, Torrey Craig.
Oh.
Yeah. Can put him at the wing, can put him in the center in certain lineups. Decent shooter. That's really what I'm looking at. 39% over the last 2 years. Not a ton of volume, but on my team, guess what you're going to be doing? Shooting threes. So I'll go Torrey Craig. The switchability more specifically is what I'm looking for.
All right. So I do know one of my picks. In a similar vein to what Andrew just laid out, I'm going Nicola Batum at number 24.
Okay. I thought he retired, which is why I asked about retired players. He's still active? He's on the Clippers?
Plays for the Clippers.
Good pick.
But Batum, to me, was the best player left, probably. Right?
I have one ahead of I have one next best player available, but if I were to take another point guard, I think you both would leave the show. So
it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
This would be my last draft. I just had all the point guards on my team.
And then my next pick is going to be Kelly Olynyk.
Like it. It's a good pick.
And that way I can confirm that I basically always have some sort of spacing out there. I know I have like multiple backup centers now, but I wanted 3 big options basically. And 2 of my bigs can play the 4 in Olynyk and Horford. Like I feel pretty good about that. And those can be lineups that occur when LeBron is playing the 1, right? Or Harden is playing the 1, or CJ is playing the 1 with LeBron. Like I'm trying to create as many different lineup possibilities here for my group as possible, is where I'm at. So number 25, Kelly Olynyk.
Same, by the way, as far as trying to create lineup possibilities.
Well, when all of your players are the same, you have infinite lineup.
Exactly. Yes. They just keep reproducing. It's man, I'm like staring at a guard that I really want to take, but it would be completely jumping the shark.
Please do it.
I'm very close to. I gotta be. Here's what I'll take a different guy for now, but if you pass on him, I'm gonna have to, Bryce.
Okay.
So then with my next pick, I hope he has. He's really not great, but I hope he has something left in him. I'll take Kevin Love.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Kevin is like within this group for sure.
Yeah. Power forward or center he can go to. I think he has enough in him as a backup that this is justified where we're at right now. So
Yep.
I would put him as my backup center, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where.
Yeah. If you want to put him where you want to put him. So, all right, Bryce, it's on you. I'm going guard with my last pick unless you take him.
So I'm trying to decide. I'm deciding between 4 names. And I'm trying, like, I could really lean into floor spacing and scoring, or I could stay a little more traditional. Here's what I'm going to take: Harrison Barnes to round out the wing room.
Is Harrison Barnes still a wing?
I mean, I just do like the 1-3-1. So primary guy, off ball guys, big man. So
yep.
I may be a little bit redundant there with Barnes and Harris, but I will live with it. I'm just
the consternation is great.
So
this pick.
I knew who I was going to take, and then now I kind of want to take somebody different to see if you'll take the guy. To see if the guy we're talking about is if you'll take him. Okay, I'm going to do it just simply to leave him on the board and see what you do. I'm going to take Jordan. I'm going to take Jordan Clarkson.
There you go.
And then see if you will take the guy that I left.
Yeah, Clarkson was my next pick that I was hoping would get there for what it's worth.
That's a lot of points scored from Clarkson for my last pick. So I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah. Andrew, was Jordan Clarkson your guy?
No, actually.
No, it wasn't.
I'm actually like, I didn't have him on my board. I'm looking for where he is in age.
Jordan Clarkson is 32 years old. He turned 32 in June.
Okay. All right, great. I'm taking Mike Conley.
Oh, that actually wasn't who I was talking about.
I'm actually very curious who you were talking about. I think he's the best shooter on the board left. So.
I'm not gonna. I will say as soon as Sam makes the pick, because just in case Sam, because Sam could use the guy that I'm talking about. So if Sam doesn't know he's on the board, I'm picking him up as an undrafted free agent.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
I'll be shocked if Sam doesn't take this player. And I'll kind of be upset if he ends, and I'll be a little embarrassed if he doesn't end up getting drafted.
I'm staring at the list. I'm not sure who you're talking. I mean, there is a wing kind of that I considered, but all right. I'm very curious where this goes then.
So there are like 3 guys here, right?
Yeah. For what it's worth, I have 3 guys separated from whoever's left.
And look, I can't take Vooch, but like Vooch is in theory available.
Yes.
It's a little bit wild that nobody took Vooch, but also speaks to how catastrophic Vooch's defense was last year.
Didn't write his name down.
But yes, yeah, I had Vooch is one of the 3 that I would reference here.
Yeah. And like, again, like I can't take Vooch. I felt like I needed, like whenever I took Jonas, I was like, okay, like it's between Vooch and Jonas. I felt like Jonas was a better defender last year than what Vooch was. And he like kind of filled the complementary role that I wanted a little bit more. And then Olynyk's ability to play both the 4 and the 5 was a little bit more valuable for me than Vooch. I'm trying to decide. So like the guys that I'm looking at here.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear your name.
So I'm assuming you're talking about Malcolm Brogdon.
I'm actually not, but he's on this list also.
Yeah. I mean, Buddy Hield is available.
That's one of the other top 3 for me.
And then like, to me, TJ McConnell is probably the next best guy.
So that's who I've been talking about. Maybe like, that's who I had planned on taking. That's who I thought you were talking about, Andrew.
I've made it clear that there are times I'm not allowed to draft people because of my religious obligations, and I'm not allowed to root for TJ McConnell in this Knicks household.
Yeah. So like TJ McConnell is the top name for me right now. And I'm trying to decide, like, it does complement what I have too, because TJ is like a driving guard who can also play at the point of attack on defense. And that's actually probably something that I do need pretty desperately, I would say, is point of attack defense. I mean, I have Paul George and I have Jimmy. Like, those two guys are going to be taking on the tough roles for the most part. But I could probably use one more. So I will go TJ McConnell here, I think.
That's who, until I realized, I kind of wish I just would have taken him, because I think that would have rounded out my bench unit better than what I ended up doing. So I blame you, Andrew.
What, for not? I mean, honestly, I think Andrew's
pick, for not.
Mike Conley is a better player than TJ McConnell. Like, that's just like accurate. I
looked at the shooting, honestly. I sure. agree, and I shot 44% from 3 last year, so that's where I went through with it. I'm bombing away on my team.
Yeah, like I'm a little bit jealous that I didn't end up with Mike Conley. I think that is where maybe I screwed up by taking Kelly at 25 and probably should have taken Conley at 25. That's a good pick. That's a really good pick, Andrew.
I may also be just like remembering McConnell's playoffs, but he was
awesome. Great.
He was unstoppable in that Knicks series. Like, unstoppable.
So best players
for TJ McConnell. Yes.
Best players available. Or should we go through our teams, Sam, or best play available and then our teams?
Let's go through best players available.
So Vooch, you mentioned. Buddy Hield would be another top name on my list.
Yes.
Malcolm Brogdon.
Those are the top 3 for me pretty clearly.
Joe Ingles.
I had him like
Joe can't really move anymore.
Yeah. Okay. I had him in a tier a little bit lower. I had Tim Hardaway Jr. just as a gunner. DeLon Wright.
Yeah. Kyle Lowry is
another
name.
Yep. Russ, if we would have gotten there, I don't think we were going to get there, but he was a name.
Have you mentioned Boyan yet?
I was getting to Boyan.
Yeah.
And then the other bigs I just wrote down were Tice, Plumlee, and Maxey. And that's why I think it was so important to get bigs early, because like you didn't want to get stuck with going there.
Yeah, and like Maxey versus Kelly is another interesting conversation to me, at least. I think I still would rather have Kelly, but
yes,
nonetheless. Andrew, anybody stand out to you? Sergio Yul over in Spain.
Alec Burks was one that
I had him on my list.
Yeah. Sure. And then honorable mention Taj Gibson, because this, again, part of my DNA.
Not on my list.
He shouldn't be. He probably shouldn't be on any NBA roster, but that's the beauty of having Taj Gibson. Seth Curry, I wrote down.
I had him on my list. Eric Gordon, Doug McDermott.
There's one more. You just said it, Eric Gordon. Yeah.
Yeah, Gordon's another good name. Makes sense. I'm trying to think if there's anybody that like we really missed that we could have talked about here. I think Delly would be on this list. Delly played okay at the Olympics is why I bring him up. But yeah, no, I don't think so.
So I wrote Gary Payton Jr.
Yeah,
Gary Payton II down.
Yeah,
and I
I
thought about him.
When I was making the list, so I just go to NBA.com, filter ages and all of that. Like I stopped and paused, and I was just like, I'm not going to end up drafting him, but like he definitely was a player that stood out that I was going through. So if we go through the next 20 players that are going to get drafted, he's probably in that number.
The player that it was crazy that he wasn't available was like when I was looking at Jonas, I literally Googled Steven Adams. I was like, man, he's still 31 and like just turned 31. That's the guy like I really wanted at that pick, but just didn't work out, unfortunately. Let's see. PJ Tucker is another name. Jeff Green is another name. Like he gave Houston pretty good minutes. Danny Green, Derrick Rose just retired. Patrick Beverley is over in Israel. Gallinari, Thad Young, Patty Mills, Boban, DeAndre Jordan for vibes. Robin Lopez for vibes.
Marcus Morris for vibes.
Marcus Morris for vibes. Justin Holiday. Gordon Hayward just retired. Jay Crowder. Robert Covington. Let's see. Muscala. Joe Harris. Reggie Bullock. And then that could be, is Fournier 32? He might be another name. Yeah. But I think that's just about everybody that we could have possibly named here. Okay.
Fournier turns 32 in a month.
And you would have had a direct path at him, Sam, if you wanted it, because Bryce and I went through the Fournier experience.
Yeah, no, I'd have been okay. I'm okay with that. Okay. The draft. I took LeBron James at number 1, Paul George and Jimmy Butler at number 6 and 7, Al Horford and James Harden at number 12 and 13, CJ McCollum and Jonas Valanciunas at 18 and 19, Nikola Batum and Kelly Olynyk at 24 and 25, and TJ McConnell at 30. Andrew took Stephen Curry at number 2, Drew Holiday at number 5, DeMar DeRozan at number 8, Damian Lillard at number 11, Brooke Lopez at number 14, Chris Middleton at 17, Chris Paul at 20, Torrey Craig at 23, Kevin Love at 26, Mike Conley at 29. Bryce took Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard at number 3 and number 4, Kyrie Irving and Rudy Gobert at number 9 and number 10, Klay Thompson and Draymond Green at number 15 and number 16, Bogdan Bogdanovic and Tobias Harris at number 21 and number 22, Harrison Barnes and Jordan Clarkson at number 27 and number 28. Interesting teams. I'm kind of into it.
This is fun.
I'm trying to decide who I think is going to win.
I think you'll win, Sam.
I think the internet will probably vote for the LeBron team, right? Like, I think that's probably the most likely outcome. But maybe I think Bryce has like a real shot. And the Steph stands are real. So like
Steph stands are real. Factor? Yeah. I still think you nailed it with the LeBron of it all. And then you put him next to Harden and Paul George and Jimmy Butler. I think that's where people will go.
Yeah. People don't like Rudy in the way that they should. So that could hurt Bryce.
I was gonna say, I have Rudy and Draymond. There's no way I'm winning.
And Kyrie. Like,
and Kyrie.
Like unlikable players, unfortunately.
And like people don't dislike Kawhi, but it's like, oh, he's not gonna. He never plays. So even though I think I looked and like he's actually played more games in the regular season over the last few years than Jimmy. It's like I think it's going to be easy to hate my team.
I think that's probably true. Unfortunately, you've both built good teams here, though. So well done, everybody. But Bryce, you know what time it is.
Oh, it's my favorite time.
It's trivia time, folks. Bryce, you get the reins. And we're ready to go.
We are looking for 23-24 regular season top 10 players who 60 or more games, 1.0 blocks or less, 1.0 blocks or less, and had the most defensive rebounds. So I qualified it as defensive because the thought process, per
game or total?
Per game. The inspiration for this was guys who don't block shots, don't quote unquote protect the rim, but clean up the defensive glass. So I took out offensive rebounds. It doesn't change it a lot, but it does change it a little bit when it's only defensive board. So I wanted to keep it defensive. So
okay.
For our listeners, 23-24 regular season, 60 plus games, 1.0 blocks or less, and the most defensive rebounds per game. We're looking for the top 10 list. Let's start, since Sam got to go first with the draft, we'll give Andrew the first pick here.
Julius Randle.
Julius Randle is
play 60 games.
Not on this list.
Oh, he didn't play 60 games. I should know that too. I completely ignored the 60 games part. You said 50 or 60?
60.
Okay.
Yep. So no Julius Randle.
Okay. Well,
Sam.
I'm going to look it up. I'm positive he qualifies like years past.
Yeah. My first guess is actually the guy who didn't get drafted in this draft is Nikola Vucevic.
That's a great guess. Nikola Vucevic is number 6 on this list. Sam starts us off. Vucevic averaged 7.8 defensive rebounds and only 0.8 blocks per game.
Great.
So just a quick note. In the 3 previous seasons where Julius Randle played 71, 72, and 77, averaged more than 8 defensive rebounds a game each season, and he's never averaged more than 0.6 blocks per game. So
1, 2, 3. That would put him probably in the top 5 of this list.
Yeah.
All right. So good in theory. Just forgot about the traumatic shoulder injury he had last year, which completely derailed portions of the season and led to him eventually getting traded. Anyway,
we should pod about that.
And I've done a lot of that this week.
Andrew's like, no, we are never podding about that again.
I almost don't want the trade to go through at this point.
Like, that would be miserable.
That's where I am.
Oh my gosh.
At this point, I don't want to have another is Cat the guy or not conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll actually go there. Karl Anthony Towns.
Karl Anthony Towns is on this list. Karl Anthony Towns is number 8 on this list at 6.8 defensive rebounds and 0.7 blocks.
Okay. I'm going with the guy that I drafted as well, Jonas Valanciunas.
Jonas Valanciunas is on this list. He is actually 10th, Sam, so we barely make it. He averages 6.5 defensive rebounds and only 0.8 blocks. He is one of the more aggressive offensive rebounders on this list at 2.3, but still makes it on the defensive end. We have Sam at 2, Andrew at 1. We have not guessed somebody in the top 5 yet. We are 6, 8, and 10.
Sam, who was your first pick again?
Nikola Vucevic.
Yeah,
And
Vucevic. He was 6. Towns was 8. Valanciunas was 10.
Got it. Defensive rebounds?
Only defensive.
Josh Hart.
Josh Hart is on this list.
Name.
We are living in the back
Such
half
a good name
of the top 10. Josh Hart was actually somebody, I had 2 names that kind of inspired this. The other one's in the top 10, so I won't say it, but Josh Hart was the other. 6.8 defensive rebounds and only 0.3 blocks.
All right. We're going to stick to the European big man corollary here that I am continuing to go down. I'm going to go Domantas Sabonis.
Number 1 on the list, Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah.
Sam has found an interesting little niche to go with. 10.1 defensive rebounds, 0.6 blocks for Domantas Sabonis.
So Sam is scouring the planet for names. I'm just going with Knicks adjacent names.
Yeah, at this point. Interesting strategies. One is paying off greatly right now. We have 5 names. Number 1, 6, 8, 9, and 10. Sam is up 3-2. Andrew, you are up.
Yeah. Okay. Rebounds. Where was Josh Hart again?
Josh was ninth.
Ninth. Okay.
It's an amazing name, Josh Hart.
Listen,
I love that you pulled Josh Hart there.
I lived through all the triple doubles. You know, when you play 48 minutes, there's a lot of defensive rebounds available. Especially when you're playing the 4 at 6'5". I'm thinking defensive rebounds. And another clarifying question, Jonas, how many rebounds a game? Defensive rebounds. What was his number?
He was at 6.5. So that was our range.
That's the lowest.
Our range is 6.5 to 10.1. Sabonis was at 10.1.
Man. Draymond
not on this list.
Okay.
Let's see.
Don't know if he blocks enough shots, or I don't know if he gets enough rebounds.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Draymond was at 5.9. Also only played 55 games last year.
Really?
Sticking to the strategy here, we're gonna go Nikola Jokic.
Second on this list is Nikola Jokic for Sam.
So my worry on Jokic originally was blocks. That's why I didn't say
0.9.
Okay, so I was close to.
So the disclaimer here was 1.0 or less. Like technically, none of these guys even average a block. Everybody is actually less than a block in the top 10.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, Jokic 9.5 defensive rebounds.
I feel good about that.
The top 3 guys would have been the top 3, I think, regardless of whether it was defensive or total rebounds. All 3 of them grab a bunch of offensive as well, but big time defensive rebounds. So 1 Sabonis, 2 Jokic. We do not have 3, 4, or 5. 6 Vucevic. 7 we do not have. Towns, Hart, Valanciunas. 8, 9, 10. Sam is up 4-2.
Man.
I have like a name that I'm going to guess next just because I'm curious about more than anything.
I gotta be honest. The problem is I just spent an entire draft looking for guards, and now I have a Rolodex of smaller, good rebounders in my brain.
Steph Curry is not on this list.
Available. Yeah.
Drew Holiday is not on this list.
So like there's like a forward that I know averaged a ton of rebounds. That's probably closer to a point guard that I don't. It could be a silly guess because there's like 100 centers I haven't said yet, you know? So that's where my head's at the moment. Let's see.
I will one of those that can make you sound really smart or
what, Andrew, what are you doing? I will go with, no, he definitely has the blocks. I can't go there. Actually, I'll guess it. I'll go Luka.
Number 4 on this list.
That is it. Okay.
That was actually my next guess as well. Was Luka.
Great guess.
Sticking within theme for me.
I went small too, so I guess I'm on brand.
0.5 blocks, 8.4 defensive rebounds. Doesn't grab essentially any offensive rebounds, but really cleans up on the defensive glass. Also, I want to shout out one of our listeners who texted me and said they pause the episode when this starts and writes down all of their answers, their top 10, and then turns the episode back on.
Oh,
so
that's great.
I can't say who it is, but shout out that person.
Okay.
So we have 7 names. It is 4-3, Sam over Andrew.
So this is where I'm at an advantage because I've podcasted with Bryce for a year.
Yeah. I gave it away. I'm sorry, Andrew. I effed up. This isn't fair. Yeah.
The fact that he said there are 2 names that made me think of this.
Yeah. Okay.
One of them has to be Jalen Durant.
Jalen Durant is number 3 on this list. It's unfair. He was the ultimate motivation for this one. 8.5 defensive rebounds and only 0.8 blocks.
Yeah.
Sorry, Andrew. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Fair. That wasn't fair. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Sabonis, Jokic, Durant, Doncic. We are looking for number 5 and 7. We have Vooch at 6. Cat, Hart, Valanciunas rounding out the top 10. 2 names.
Man. So I'm tempted to still think like forward here, but I also I haven't guessed this. I haven't guessed the center yet.
You went with your gut last time. It paid off.
Yeah. So like, I'll just say, and I mean, Sam, you can take it if you want. If I don't take it, but I'm thinking Jason Tatum at the moment because I know he averaged a ton of rebounds, and I have no idea how off that is because there just weren't a lot of offensive rebounds to get on that team last year. So I would guess that the rebounds that he did get,
I'd say offensive rebounds don't matter. We're just
right. So that's why if he did average like 8 or 9 a game, which he did, then most of them are defensive. So that's where I'm jammed up. I'll just guess it. I'll go Tatum.
Jason Tatum, number 7. And we have a very, very interesting game right now as Tatum averaged 7.2 defensive rebounds, 0.9 offensive. You were on track, only 0.6 blocks.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to my original theme.
Okay.
I am going to say Yusuf Nurkic.
Yusuf Nurkic, not on this list.
I like that guess.
Let me look up where Yusuf would be. Yusuf did play the games. He averaged 1.05 blocks, Sam.
That's such a good guess.
He averaged, for the listeners, 8.07 defensive rebounds, which would have put him near the top 5. Great guess. Not right, though. We live on for our first chance at a tiebreaker question that I don't have created yet. So I should start thinking about that.
No, there's a ton of rebounds available, offensive rebounds on that team. So that's the strategy I'm going to. Like, team that was really efficient offensively, that maybe went small more often, like had like a non-traditional 4, but like more of a stretch 4 that got most of the rebounds, which is where Tatum came from. I can't. Pascal
Siakam, not on this list.
Not on this list.
A good guess.
Yeah.
Actually, kind of similar. I mean, sort of to what I'm going to say, I think.
So Siakam, 80 games last year.
I'm
didn't average the blocks. No, he did not.
No.
5.3. So just not quite there. Didn't rebound quite at the clip you would want. 5.7 with the Pacers.
So
had him a little closer.
I might go. So my immediate reaction here is I'm worried that this guy has the blocks, but I know that he is not by nature a shot blocker, basically. I'm weirdly going to go Bam because he doesn't block the shot. Like, my point is he doesn't block the shots. You know what I mean? Like, he's the versatile. He's like flying around, but he gets defensive rebounds. So Bam is my guess.
Bam Adebayo averaged 1.1 steals and 0.9 blocks while averaging 8.1 defensive rebounds.
Wow.
Bam Adebayo is number 5 on this list.
Sam Vecenie.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, like, I was thinking of guys that like don't block shots as bigs. And then honestly, like, I thought about LeBron as well. Like, we had
after the top
LeBron.
10, Şengün, which would have stayed with your theme a little bit, Sam.
I didn't think of him. I probably should have, honestly.
LeBron James, Miles Bridges, Jabari Smith Jr., John Collins, Deni Avdija, Paolo Banchero would be the next, what is that, 6 or 7 names on the list. So
Paulo's a good name. I didn't think he hit the rebounds necessarily.
Yeah. Kuzma, Portis, Michael Porter Jr., Andre Drummond, some further names.
Bam's a great pull. Bam's a great pull.
Okay, so Andrew, this actually hit faster than I thought. Pascal was like top 20.
Okay.
So like,
yeah, there you go.
We did not have any outlier guesses. I feel like I think we pretty solid.
This was a good trivia question.
Yeah.
Bryce, we had rhythm. We were able to kind of move it along, and We didn't look like jackasses, which was a goal.
I only have 4 misses on here. So yeah, that was well
Good
done
for us.
on all of us.
Yeah, I think I only missed one,
And I missed the rest.
I love
Maybe I missed 2. Did I miss 2?
I only have Nurkic.
Nurkic.
I know I missed Nurkic.
I
Yeah.
can't remember the other one.
I had Randall, Draymond, and Pascal as my misses.
I mean, in fairness, Andrew, you lost 6-4, and Sam was essentially gifted one answer based off his and I's.
Knowing you.
Yeah.
So you're saying I should contest the vote, is what you're saying?
That's not what I'm saying.
Are you saying hashtag stop the steal?
Stop the
Bryce?
steal.
Is that,
Yes.
is that what's happening here?
I don't know what that means. I'm just saying you should still feel okay about yourself when you go to bed.
So I won trivia, and by a lot is what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're just like my students. I give you an inch and you take a mile, and then I will never give you an inch again in my life. And then they wonder why I'm an asshole.
Oh my God. Bryce, please tell the people where they can find you on the internet.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter. Follow over there for podcasts, Substack, draft content, NBA, whatever. You'll find it there at Motor City Hoops. Otherwise, Game Theory Podcast with Sam Vecenie, the best, and Andrew Claudio, who makes it even better.
GMAC, tell the people what's going on.
What's going on is you could, I guess, I never actually shout out my personal Twitter. I'll just do it. Andrew J Claudio _ That's where you get a lot of my thoughts about New York sports and maybe a movie that I see. By the way, Sam, have you seen The Substance?
I have not yet.
Okay. We need to see it, and then we need to make Bryce see it.
So they're only showing it at like 8:50 at the theater that's in walking distance of us.
Okay.
And like it ends up being a little bit late because that is a 2.5 hour movie, I think, right? It's like quite long.
It's quite long. I would sit through an entire bonus episode of Game Theory just to hear Bryce's thoughts on. Yeah,
Bryce's thoughts on this. I've not seen it yet, so I can't. I watched Blink twice yesterday. That was fun. Fun movie. Yeah, like fun. I would say more than like cohesive, interesting.
I'm out.
You're out on
The Substance.
Yep. Body horror film is a hard no. And I'm also not doing that for 2.5 hours. I would literally read the plot if you guys made me talk about it and not watch the movie.
That might actually be better podcasting because the plot is insane as well through Wikipedia. You can follow me on Twitter there. All 3 of us are hyperlinked in the episode description if you're listening on the pod. If you want to check out my work at Nick's Film School, just wherever podcasts or the YouTube channels are available, just find us there. We've got a ton of reaction still going on to this blockbuster trade. And
put it up on the screen.
Oh, and then of course everybody needs to go check out Game Theory Sam V. That's where you'll find on Twitter or on TikTok or on Instagram all of the Game Theory socials. We'll be doing exclusive Game Theory social content, bite-sized content in the not too distant future. So everybody, please, let's go to Game Theory Sam V. It's hyperlinked. It's also just regular linked in the description, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast feed. Game Theory Sam V.
I watched Lost Highway last week for the first time, maybe in like a decade or so. That's another one that I would be fascinated to see Bryce's reaction to.
I've actually never seen it, so maybe that's a twofer where both of us could see it.
I watched Wolves last night. Have you guys seen that?
That's the Clooney Pitt movie, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. I've been discussing Karl Anthony Towns and Julius Randle, unfortunately.
Wolves is a great time. I had a very fun time. Look, it's not like the most amazing movie in the world, but I had a great time watching movie stars be movie stars.
Yeah, no, it was
like
fun.
Make more original movies where movie stars get to play off of one another and be movie stars. That's my like plead to Hollywood right now. Just please give me more of these things. Solid like 3 to 3.5 star movie. Like that's all I want. Hour 45 minutes, solid 3.5 star movie. That's it.
That might be my Wednesday then. There you go. As long as the Knicks don't make another trade.
Well, you never know.
Do they have any assets to do that? Or
you know what? I didn't think they had many assets to make this one, right? So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not putting it past Leon Rose.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed over there. Go subscribe on the Game Theory YouTube channel, Game Theory Podcast with Sam Vecenie. Go to my Twitter, Sam_Vecenie. You can follow me there. Go subscribe over on the many podcasting platforms that people use now, such as Spotify, Apple, whatever you're using. Please hit the 5-star button, ratings, reviews, everything like that. We will be back on, I think, Thursday. I think the schedule is to have Jason Timp come on, and we're going to talk about stuff. Who knows what? I think Jason and I do actually have a plan. We might talk about his player rankings in the NBA, and Jason and I will argue and probably not yell because we're good friends, but we will have a good time discussing his rankings and where he has players. That's the plan, though, until October, and I'm excited about it. So until next time, we'll talk soon.